Hey everyone, thanks so much. Chris, it's great to see you again. Jake, it's great to meet you.
You as well.
Well, this is amazing. I well remember seeing the first generation of Runway AI, and I think we can all see the progress that's been made. But Jake, I'm going to immediately go to what I consider to be the cinematic elephant in the room, and that is, will AI kill Hollywood? Hollywood's been around for 100 years. Will AI kind of end this run of Hollywood as we know it? Or are we not there yet?
I think we've been here before, and I think it's important to recognize that Hollywood exists because of technology, and there have been many technological revolutions that have happened across the history of Hollywood, from bringing sound and color to the picture, to CGI, and there has been existential angst in Hollywood and outside of Hollywood as to whether or not this was going to kill Hollywood. I don't see AI as something that's going to kill Hollywood. We are, at the end of the day, an artist-driven company at Agbo, and it still takes the human touch, the human connection. Now, that said, will it be revolutionary? I believe it will. I believe it will, but I don't see it as a revolution that kills Hollywood.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chris, I'm going to push back on that a little bit, though, because, as Ali was saying, and as we've discussed, many actors, writers, creatives of all stripes have pushed back on this technology. We can see how amazing it is, and folks have raised concerns about it. Just a year ago started the SAG actor strike, and just last week there was news that actors have been pushing back against digital scans of their likenesses. What are they misunderstanding? We were just talking in the green room about kind of the nuance around this discussion. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing is I think I agree with Jake with regards to how really art and technology are entwined. Like, cinema and filmmaking is the history of technology in a way. And I think what we're seeing right now are more of the same. These are really exceptional tools for great artists. And kind of what we were discussing before, to a point of nuance, I think these days it's really hard to get nuanced conversations. I think we get into extremes. This is either destroying everything we know or is the best thing we've ever seen in our lifetime. And I think it's like none of both. It's like somehow in between. It's going to create a lot of change. I think technology creates change, and that's a good thing. And it's going to allow for many more things that we never thought could be possible to be possible. And I think that the first type of thing that I think is necessary to get a bit more of that nuance is, if you're afraid, if you have your opinions around this, if you've never used any of those tools, then the first thing you should do is use them. Like, if you've never ever created a video using a model like Gen 3, then go ahead and create a video, and you'll see by experience in like 2 minutes where things are, what are the challenges, how it can be used, and how filmmakers are using it so far. And so getting to that nuance is somehow difficult, but I think it's needed.
Well, I want to come in a few minutes. I want to take some questions for the audience. I'm sure there is some, so just think about that. But Jake, I'm going to turn to you again. I'm not sure how many people realize that for a long time you were a producer, on some iconic TV shows that we all love, like The Office and Community. So I feel like you have a unique take on this, moving into this innovation role at Agbo. Can you talk a little bit about how you use today's AI tools in production, whether that is Runway, or I think you were talking about kind of even earlier in the R&D process?
Sure, yeah. I did start as a producer, and I've been involved in technology through my entire career. Right now, I think what's important to realize is this technology, when it comes to being useful to a company like ours, Agbo, is very much in its infancy. We're in a very early stage of this. Now, we're all watching it progress at a fairly rapid pace. The question is, does it continue to accelerate or to progress at that same pace? But what we see opportunity in right now is what a lot of people in Hollywood are using generative AI for is visualizing your creative idea prior to when you would even have access to a crew, to a team of artists that can visualize that for you, which might have been the traditional process, or you just don't have the money to do it because you're an independent filmmaker with a much lower budget potential. And the generative tools can really help you. It's like sketching. You can get your ideas out and look at it and say, is that it's not what you're going to put on the screen at the end of the day, the way we look at it right now anyway. It is a way to get your ideas out there and to communicate your ideas visually, and that's a very powerful thing. We've seen it as a powerful thing, especially when you're in the middle of still creating what the world is. And again, like I said, it's early in the process we call development, where you don't have access to things. You're going out to the studios to pitch your ideas, to try and secure financing, and this gives you the ability to give just a little more than you could before.
Chris, we've talked about your early days. Runway started in 2018. You and your two co-founders met at NYU at art school. So I've always been super interested in the fact that you are a visual artist historically, and that has sort of helped inform Runway. Can you talk about how that is the case, and now when you kind of get pushback from creative communities, how you kind of bring that back to your own background?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we started Runway 2018. I've been working on some of the concepts and ideas of Runway almost for a decade now. And I think like the unique aspect of what we build over time is really the intersection of art and science in a way that makes sense for tool makers, for artists who want to use this and leverage it. My personal passion was really trying to understand what new art forms can emerge out of new models like this ones. Now, the world was very different in 2018 in terms of what general models could do, what even computer vision could do at the time. But I felt like there was something there that just felt very differently. And I think over time, we've pushed not only the research boundaries with the timelines of the videos that we just saw, but also with how accessible these tools can become for more people. And that accessibility requires empathy and understanding how artists really work. If you simplify the creative process to pushing a button, that misses the whole point. It's a process. You sometimes don't know exactly where you're going. You start with an idea, and it's about experimentation. And so building tools with the experimentation mindset at the beginning, it's something we've encouraged the team to do from the very beginning. And I think we'll continue to do so for the time being. And then how we managed that to communicate that across and also speak more about the nuances with encouraging more people to view what's possible with AI these days in the context of really high kind of production environments. We have this film festival we host every year. I think
I went.
You went? That's an invitation basically to celebrate artists who are using new technologies. Not technology. We don't discuss models. We don't discuss AI. We just discuss people using models or technologies. And that is one of the key things I would say they need to do more of. I'm obsessed with technology. I think a lot of people here are, but we should start obsessing with people more than the technology itself.
Well, speaking of the people, I'd love to take a question. Does anyone have one? We've got a mic back there. Okay, right here. Just say your name and where you're from.
Hi, Chris Willis from Domo. I loved what you said about creativity is not just pushing a button. With these new tools, we hear that it's not going to replace jobs. It's going to replace kinds of tasks. But going forward, what kind of people do you think will really thrive with these kind of tools? Or what do schools like art schools at NYU need to be teaching?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think you can look at the past to get a sense of how to make sense of the future, I would say. This is the revolution, the current generation of artists were benefited a lot from the beautiful transformation in technology that we saw a couple of decades ago. And right now, something similar is happening where a new generation of artists are going to be embracing this as tools for them to take on, will be the ones that will, I would say, thrive. I think the mindset that I'm trying to move away from is the stasis mindset, which is thinking that what we have right now, production-wise, tool-wise, technology-wise, is the forever way we will ever do things. And I think that for me is a mistake that puts not the history of art in context. There's art is an ever-changing form. And I'm curious and I'm really thoughtful and I'm really excited for the ones that are going to think of these things as a new media type, as a new art form that will require people to experiment, to create new things that we haven't never seen before. And the ones that are doing that are the ones that are not constrained by how things used to work. And those for me are the ones that are pushing the boundaries these days. And so we incentivize also in schools for students to be more of that
That leads me to my next question for Jake. I feel like video and photography and creative mediums are a good example of where we've already had so many tech developments in that area. We've had Photoshop, we have YouTube, we have different apps on TikTok to make videos. How is this different? Do you see it as different, even more game-changing down the line? Or do you see it as just another evolution in the history of video and photo and visual art?
I would say probably somewhere in the middle of that. I think there's a lot of similarities to, let's say, the release of Photoshop and the ubiquity of Photoshop. We were grappling at the time with a lot of very similar issues, which is what's real. You used to say a picture, if you could see a picture of something, that meant it was real. And then all of a sudden Photoshop started questioning, and Photoshop became a verb very quickly.
Right.
And we grappled with that, and we are all fine still. It's okay, and so I think that there's some of the same wisdom should be applied today to what AI tools are. That said, I think I very much agree with Chris. I think there's potentially a new medium here that is about enabling something that doesn't currently exist in terms of personalized interactions, in terms of being able to get exactly what you want at the time that you want it in relation to creative works, an IP that might exist or have been created. It's a really interesting, I think, possibility, and that's where I'd like to keep my eye is not trying to save a nickel doing the stuff that we've always done, but like what's new? What can we create here with this technology?
We have one more question here I'd love to take.
Hey. Hi, I'm Kakul Srivastava, CEO of Splice. We are a creator-first AI tech for music and musicians. So really appreciate your question, Sharon. We also believe that it's about the creative process first, and you have to focus on the creator. I'm super curious in both of your work, what have you seen artists do differently with this technology that's not just a productivity gain, but a creativity gain? And more specific, the better.
Go ahead.
Sure. We've released a new model. I think it's been like 12 days or so. I've been obsessed just watching people generate things. So I do like sessions where I just see people like generate things and work with these models. And the more I see them, the more I started to understand that this is becoming more of what I'm thinking about as like a gym for the mind. You're going to exercise your creativity, not for the sake of creating some sort of like mastermind picture, like film that's going to make you an award-winning director, but more because you want to just exercise your own creative like mind. And it's a tool that allows you to basically do that. You go in with some ideas you have in your head, something you've always wanted to create. You start creating with it. The model responds back with new things you've never thought of before. You take those things, you adjust them, and you spend hours doing it. And then suddenly you're like in a flow state where like you spend hours thinking about stuff, creating stuff. The output is not some productivity like video that you're going to put for a sales pitch or, I don't know, a film. It's just for your own like joy, and you're happy with it. And I think that for me has been something I've never seen before, that you engage with the technology in a way you've never engaged with any other technology before. I think part of it is the model becomes extremely creative as you use it more, and also it's a very fast feedback process. So you think about something, you see it, you think about it again, and you start doing this all the time. That for me has been like one of the most interesting productive use cases I've seen so far.
All right, we've got literally just over a minute left. I want so watch that. Yeah. I want final thoughts, brief final thoughts. Okay. What should we be thinking here?
I mean, I think just to relate back to what I just said, I think it's keep our eyes on the future, keep our eyes on what's possible. I think the artists are going to show us what's possible. I think Chris's art background is so critical to what you're doing, and I think it's going to be the artists that show us how these tools are used, and it's the happy accidents, it's the hallucinations that happen that are inspirational. I think that is what's new about this.
What do you say, Chris?
I basically basically the same. Think about and try to go for the things that don't have names, that you've never seen before. When photography was first invented, people didn't have the words to describe it, and they looked at it as something new. The first photographies ever made were referred to as mirrors with memories, because that was the language people had at the time to describe this new thing. I think pretty much to what you were saying, focus on the artists who are going to push the boundaries to figure out those